Hello and welcome to another Hacking HR September series webinar. Today we will be talking about employee experience in a digital world, and we will be talking how we can balance the high tech with the high touch. So before we kick off the conversation, as usual, let's see what we have today in our audience. So if you can just leave in the comments where you're joining from, whether it's morning for you or if it's like an evening time. Let's see. So this is the beauty of having Hacking HR webinars all around the world with international audience. We always like to have people joining from all over the world. Okay, let's see if we have any comments. By the way, I'm joining from Istanbul, Turkey. It's a shiny day. It still feels like summer, although we are now in September. And it's like kind of like still warm. And I'm not sure if anyone else is joining from Europe and how is the weather going in different locations around the world. Okay, let's see. Do we have any comments? We have people joining. And in the meantime, maybe we can also invite our panelists to the stage for a quick intro. Hello, ladies.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good morning. Good afternoon, wherever you're joining from. Jamie, where are you joining from?
I am in the Austin, Texas, United States area.
Okay, you're just kicking off your day then.
That's right. Yep.
Beautiful.
How's the weather there?
A little overcast this morning, but overall nice. We've got a light breeze and we'll probably hit 90, 95 degrees today.
Okay, that sounds great. And Christina, where are you joining from?
I'm based in Berlin, Germany. It's actually a very sunny autumn day, so it's a bit chilly in the morning. So we're freezing in the morning, but today was a good day.
Okay, not so common of Berlin during this time of the year, but it's a good thing that you have the sunshine. And Kelly, hi.
Hi, everybody. I'm from the Bay Area in California.
Okay.
And yes, it's 7 a.m. here. Kids are off to school. It's been a little chaotic and the weather's great. So excited to get into fall and happy to be here.
So you're ready for the panel. You're ready for today. You just like sent the kids off to school and you're fresh
Make your own lunch.
now.
Let's go.
Okay, it's almost the end of my day. It's 5 p.m. here. Yeah. So this will be the one thing before the last, before I wrap up my day. Okay, so let's start talking a bit about employee experience. And I mean, this is something very dear to my heart because we've been not so much talking about employee experience, especially before the pandemic, when everyone realized that it's the human workforce that is like, more valuable than anything else. And I think after the pandemic, that's how everything shifted towards being more human focused, like more employee focused. And today I would really like to understand your expertise, your insight around that, and how you are just like managing in your respective companies. So Jamie, let's start with you. How would you define employee experience? I mean, like, what do we mean by employee experience? Because like we did not have this terminology before. We were just like having the employee engagement recognition, yes, but like, why are we just defining it as an experience now?
Yeah, I think it's partially due to the shift in how we think about the workforce in general due to the pandemic and some of the more human aspects of that. And the way that I like to think about employee experience is it's an organization's opportunity to create a personalized experience through the entire employee life cycle that allows for that mutual benefit of the employee-employer relationship. You want it to be a situation where it's personalized to the person. It's easy for them to navigate, and it makes them thrive within your organization so that they can build and help you beat your business goals. So aligning that with what the business needs, aligning that with what they're there to accomplish and why they chose your organization, and just try and make it hyper personalized so that they continue to grow along the way.
I really like how you define this hyper personalized, because it's really important. It's not just like, one fits all. So like, having that personalized is an important aspect. And Kelly, what is your insight about that, and how do you see employee experience unfolding?
Yeah, I think Jamie's points are right on. My short answer and kind of easy way to think about this in my own head, at least, is that we're finally being expected to mirror what everyone's trying to do for customers, with products or services, things that customers expect from products or services they buy. We obsess over that experience. We do everything we can to watch, observe, ask them, make sure that they're getting the most value out of whatever we're providing to them. And we really haven't done the same on the employee side as much. We've always cared about it, but it's been a little bit different. So I think you're seeing, especially with technology, AI, digital transformations, digital platforms, digital tools. I mean, everything that we do now is pretty much digital. I try to write on a piece of paper here and there to keep sane, but everything we do at work and in personal life is digital. And I think now we're in the HR world being expected to apply a lot of the skill sets, tools, and practices that product managers and marketing managers have applied to customers for years.
That's really a great way. And Christina, do you have anything else to add to that?
I think one of the also key components that I was thinking about the employee experience is around engagement and their well-being, and also how we can think about the employee experience not only from the sense of providing them the digital easy-to-use solution, but also how we care about what is the feedback and the type of feedback that we're getting on the development, and how we think about the employee journey, where this employee experience starts. Because definitely when we're like in this well-rounded roles, when we're looking after people and talent teams, we sometimes are lost. Where is the employee experience? Is it from the first day of the employment, when the person is going through the door, and it finishes when they're onboarded? But it's actually from the moment that we engage with the person till the moment that they leave the company and put their badge on the desk and saying, I'm moving on. And also to the point that it's really interesting thought that we brought around how we can also think about it from the customer perspective, because it's something that we can now shaping also our KPIs when we're also responding to the tickets or responding to the requests, and measuring our success based on how the employees see us as a function, and going from this operational admin HR into something impactful and creating a digital journey for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really great. And I really like how you just made the path to the digital, because I was going to ask how things have changed with the digital, because we are talking about AI, we're talking about digital tools, HRIS. So like, everything is around like HR tech, and everything is just like, going towards a digitalized way. But what is that secret sauce? And Kelly, let's start with you. So like, what is the way to just like make sure that we are having a good balance of digital versus the human touch? Where should we use the digital?
Yeah, I think what I've seen and heard and talked to a lot of folks in this time is a lot of technology or AI for technology or AI's sake. It's out there. We have to use it, fit it in there.
Like me too. Like we are doing it as well.
Yes, totally. And I feel like the trap that some folks can fall into is starting with that versus starting with the end state, the thing, and then fitting those things into that vision, if that makes sense. So, do you have a point of view on what that experience should look and feel like independent of the technology? If you already have an experience, do you understand where things are going well, where things aren't going well? Then let's use the technology to understand that, then improve it. And so that's what I've seen again a lot is starting with the technology just to use it and not really having the wherewithal of does the customer care about that? Do we need that? And there's so much technology out there in AI, we could be swimming in that. Every day you could change a new tool and this or that. And I think that's a danger with all of this. I've personally been on the end of maybe not engaging in technology as much because I think too much can be distracting if you're not using it smartly. I've had other colleagues that are obsessed and every day they want to, buy a new platform or a new tool, and that's equally as distracting. And so I'll just kick off for Jamie and Christina to chime in that, start with the experience first, start with the point of view. It's like everything, like with a business, you have a point of view in the business model before you start building things around it. You don't just start building things without understanding where you're going. So I think we can lose the strategic vision with all of this stuff around and get distracted pretty easily. But when used, it can be very powerful. And I know we'll dig into that too.
Yeah, so let's go to Jamie on that. Like, how do you have any experience of like how it was good use and not to burn people out, but actually help people to make things better and easier?
Well, I'll start with just people operations. There's opportunities to digitize and use AI in people operations to make us more efficient and maybe provide more effective tools where we can take information, synthesize it. Employee surveys are a good example of that. If we really want to get to the heart and sentiment of that employee experience, using AI tools for efficiency's sake to help us synthesize that information and then create an action plan around it can be helpful. But I really like how Kelly set it up, thinking about the overall experience and what that business, vision is, because you have a real opportunity when you're crafting your employee experience journey to think about what are those moments where you weave in your core values, and then anything that requires empathy, EQ, compassion. Those are the things that you leave alone, right? Those are the things that you don't touch on. So I think there's a balance there, and I know that's kind of what we're talking about today. But when you think about how does that come across to the employee, you want that employee to in their personal lives, they've got information at their fingertips. So the more you can do that in the workplace, the more that's gonna feel natural to them. And then we all know those moments that really matter, where that human touch is important. Don't take it away.
Yeah. It's very nice way of just culminating everything into one point, because I see also companies that are just okay, let's buy this, let's do this, because thinking that they are going to improve the lives of their employees. But that doesn't happen like that. It's like that. Any tool is not like a magic stick that's going to improve the life of an employee, but that human touch is going to do that. So it's really important to underline that and to say it. Maybe it's sometimes overly used, but I think it's okay to overuse it. And Christina, I know that you're also working with many companies. You are just hearing about companies and any experience, any best practice that you've seen on that side.
Yeah, I think there's also a very interesting shift that we went from hybrid into the kind of fully digital environment. And it's also on the platforms that can be overused and being used properly, because I've seen the companies that would be implementing Slack and Teams and Zoom simultaneously, and then email, and also Jira tickets for the people ops tasks, and then the team feels very overwhelmed on both sides. What is the right channel? So, and then actually onboarding the tool, which has well-rounded approach, and not to have 10 different solutions for everything, but but actually going for one solution, which can, maybe it's not perfect in everything, but it can cover, and then the team members and the employees, they really realize, okay, that's the way for me to ask this question. Or for example, what we're leveraging right now is the chatbot technology, when we actually uploaded kind of all of our policies and trained the language model in order to realize them and give the answers. And when the people have a quick question, like for example, what is my PTO allowance in this country, they have a paragraph that doesn't require like sending a Slack message to the people operations specialist in the country. And there are definitely topics like somebody's planning to go on maternity leave or something bigger, or bigger events happening in life, then they need to be mindful, and we need to have this in-person conversation. So it's definitely like, I think to the point that we said and Kelly said around the whole experience and the tools, just when they're not implemented with the strategic way, we're lost how to communicate and how to channel and whom to contact even.
Yeah. And it's a great point, Christina.
Mhm.
And I don't know about you all
Please.
in this market, you know, money is not plentiful right now to buy a bunch of tools. And so I think, you know, opposite of maybe 5-6 years ago, there's a lot of scrutiny on your tech stack, what you're spending your money on. Is it strategic? Is it adding value? And so I think the importance of making sure you can tie that ROI and how it is improving the employee experience overall, it just has a thicker magnifying glass right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true. And I would like to ask it, like combining all of them in one place. So I would like to ask, like, how the digital, the technology is also helping the sense of community, sense of belonging, and because, like as you said, like the hybrid work, the remote work also has changed the way that we are connecting with each other and how the teams are connecting with each other. So how do you see technology augmenting or even just like, improving that connection between the employees? Jamie, you want to take that?
Yeah, I think, there's some technologies out there that help to build community and continue conversation. I think that's really important in the fully remote environments, to encourage conversation that's not just work related. There's also technologies that are helping to plan offsites and engagement opportunities for in real life. I think those are important. I want to lean back into that personalization aspect of it as well. The idea that when people come to work, and I know Christina mentioned the fact that a lot of companies, they think about employee experience and they stop at onboarding, right? They have a really great, recruiting and pre-hire, and then that onboarding, and then the people ops team hand the employee to the manager, and then you kind of stop thinking about it there. And so what does that true a personalized experience look like? From an onboarding, you can have technology out there that helps them know who to connect with, who to talk to, who are going to be the people that they interact with on a regular basis. There's some cool technology that is focused on the employee journey and life cycle as a whole, helping with touch points and nudges of, hey, we haven't seen you give a recognition in public in a while. Are you okay? And maybe think about that. So and then helping with scheduling, right? That's another thing is so challenging, is our calendars are crazy. So how do you get on people's calendars without adding one more meeting or making it feel like it's just another thing that we have to be on camera for? And there's some cool technologies coming out about that can help with some of that. So I feel like with the introduction of Gen AI, we are on a very fast moving roller coaster. And so it is back to that due diligence of how should that enhance your organization? How should that enhance the community that you're building? How should that enhance the fact that when an employee decides to move on, they still want to be an alumni, right? Because they had a great employee experience, a great human experience in your workforce or in your workplace. And so those are the kind of things that you really need to zero in on when you're trying to figure out, how do we build community? What are those tools that are going to be important? And then the more you can personalize it, the better.
Yep. That's really great. And Kelly, I would like to ask you one thing. So you've been in HR for so long, and you've been like at C-level positions, and you've seen like different companies experiencing this. How would you compare this, your experience with employee experience pre-pandemic and now? Like we have this, as Jamie is saying, we have Gen AI and we have all these digital tools. Is it really helping and improving, or was it like, better before than it is right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. Probably different angles to the answer. I don't know if I would put all of this on a pre or post pandemic. I'll answer in maybe two ways. The first I've noticed or seen is pre-pandemic. To Jamie's points, there were less community-based technologies, I would say, right? So I've noticed that post-pandemic, you have really great technologies now that I see a lot of people using asynchronous video, like Loom. You see community-based platforms and technologies where asynchronous remote colleagues at work are talking, again, async on video about their family, their kids, topics they're passionate about. I see a lot more innovation around using technology for community than before, where it was Microsoft Teams, it was Slack, it was, all these things, because people saw each other a bit more. And I think post-pandemic, there was always distributed work, but now there is more distributed work. And a lot of these new companies have come up trying to create that human experience asynchronously to keep people connected in a way that's not about deadlines or, executing work. So that's kind of one pre or post pandemic. However, if I just, switch gears a little bit, this digital world, right? This technology, AI, digital transformation, I wouldn't akin that to pre or post pandemic. That's a journey that we were destined to be on, and that's what I mean by everything is digital. Like, all of our companies, I was at Pendo before I rolled out to be an advisor, and, an enterprise company has on average 200 to 300 applications, right? 200 to 300 software tools.
Oh my God.
That these companies are buying and expecting people to get work done, not just within one of them, but on average, an employee will jump across 6 or 7 of these tools to get one damn thing done. And I don't know about you all, but I used to have like at least 25, 30 tabs open on my laptop. And that can be a really bad experience. So I think you're seeing, again, an expectation on people in HR teams to actually think about that now and make that experience easy, seamless, maybe even enjoyable for employees to get stuff done. And that's what I meant by we are now being expected to treat employees like customers. Customers do the same thing. We follow manuals. We go on our iPad. We have to do all these things, and they try to make it so easy for us. I think now we're expected to make it a delightful experience for employees and organizations, through digital tools. And what I mean by that is we now have to dissect what that experience is, like a product manager does for a customer using a product. And then we have to campaign to employees like marketers and meet them where they are in their workflow to help make their experience better, right? And easier. And that's ultimately good for business, better for business. And I think the main thing that's changed for us in that is data. A lot of these tools, a lot of these platforms we can't just anecdotally guess now how things are getting done, when they're getting done, by whom, and how well. We can actually see that now, right? Through digital adoption tools, through things like that, you can meticulously see and measure how employees are working. And I think we're being more and more expected to do that. And C-level leaders are asking these questions. Where are our efficiencies? Where are we doing well? Where are we falling down? People teams can now measure that with specific detail and improve that through AI and technology in a smart way. And that's going to keep kind of rising as far as that bar rising, I think. That makes sense.
It's making total sense. And I love how you were just like, distinctively talking about, the digitalization before and after. And I did not realize that the average company had 200 different tools. That was like, wow. And when I think about it, like and as you said, I have 25 tabs open right now. And that's why sometimes my connection at the beginning, it was like unstable just because of those tabs, because I don't even restart my laptop.
Yes.
And when you were talking about that, I was like thinking about our minds. So because like those tabs are also open in our minds. So it's not only the digital side of it, but there is an impact on the human side of it. So this is also like impacting how we're feeling, how we are working, how the well-being is evolving. And I would like to just point to Christina, because you mentioned like Kelly, that it's really important that we have data. How do we measure these things? Because there are some things that are really intangible and abstract about this, like how people are feeling, like how I was describing this in my mind. I'm just like feeling so burned out because of all these tabs. But how do you measure this, the impact that the people are having using these tools, or how they are functioning in the company?
I think it's a very, very good question. And because I was just reflecting as an anecdotal, I just was reading one of the updates from our data team that we actually decided to use 2 data solutions for ultimately solving the same problem. So which means that you're switching between the data solution just because you need to have a nuanced data in order to pull and understand how it's working. I think there are things that are like really, as you mentioned, very intangible that first of all, definitely we can ask them and like rate and complete the survey, and also to understand like what is on the high level, how the teams are feeling. But what is important, it's basically the observation, and for us being also very close to the business and understanding and maybe even sometimes shadowing how people are performing their work, and understanding what is the actual day-to-day of the sales leader looks like, or what is the day-to-day of the accountant looks like. Do they need to log the report in 10 different places and then to write an email and then copy that email in Slack and update the team? So can we actually optimize it? And then speaking with the leaders, because some of those optimizations and making things easier is coming also from the leadership, because we can influence on the different levels the ways and also the workflows that we're following. So it's definitely we can gather the data in a way of the survey or like general observation, but actually going on site and speaking to the team and understanding how their day-to-day looks like.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so Jamie, do you want to add anything to that one?
Yeah, I really lean into that job shadowing and asking questions, going on listening tours and being there with them. So when Kelly mentioned, meeting employees where they're at, that is the key to crafting that successful employee experience from start to finish, is just understanding what are those challenges or what are those pet peeves. That's an easy win, right? There's a lot of times those pet peeves are just the smallest of things that one little tweak can make the world of a difference for somebody. So, having those conversations, asking those questions, and then you can, measure with your metrics. It impacts turnover. It impacts engagement scores. It impacts, we have a custom question in our engagement surveys. When you need to find information, do you know where to go to get it? And tracking if we're moving in the right direction on that, because we're a small organization, 63, full-time employees, a handful of contractors, and I think we still have over 100 pieces of technology and subscriptions, and it's just too much, right? And so we know there's issues there, and that's something that we can work on, and that's one of the ways we measure how we're doing.
That's really amazing. And I like our topic is going the balancing between the high touch and the human touch. So like it's really important that we balance this. And one someone from our audience also, I really like this, how they were saying, I like the guideline of using technology to enhance connection and not to replace it. Because sometimes we just like think buying a tool is going to replace a current, a process or how we do things, but it is there to enhance it, to improve it, to augment it, not to replace it. So that should really be clear to everyone, that we are not getting the technology, the digital tools to replace something that's working, but to make it even better through data, through analysis, surveys, whatever we are trying to do. And there's also one comment: data accumulated from software is key to see how employees are spending their time, whether they are taking breaks from so much technology we as employers require them to use, and to see if they are utilizing the human touch software intended to give them that needed connection, and for how long, useful, enjoyable. This is important as well, because we usually think that the technology is there to measure how they are doing, but it's also important to show them that they are maybe overdoing. So that's something that needs to be also looked after. Okay, so let's talk a bit about the some tools that you like and you maybe experienced, that you saw that's really working and enhancing, like as we were talking about, not replacing but enhancing, and maybe not specifically mentioning the tool itself, but how they were doing it. Kelly, do you have any examples of that?
Yeah, I mean, so first, I completely agree with Gloria's comment. Like, these tools can be really helpful. And I'll just use Pendo as an example, right? It's a digital adoption platform that kind of isn't another tool. I akin it to like an invisible membrane, so to speak, or like a sheet that sits on top of all your tools. It is invisible to employees. And like I mentioned, it can give you very detailed insight into how people are working, what's going well, what's not going well. First of all, your software utilization. You can see out of the 200 tools in your organization, who's using what, and do we actually have too many? Is there too much technology in this organization that is causing us to have less human interaction or less personalized experiences? And then within each application or tool, you can see exactly like where Christina is struggling, where is she dropping off, right? You can see the differences between different teams, right? In this step of this workflow in Salesforce, all of the new account executives, you can stratify it, right? People that have only been there 6 months or less, they're all struggling with this situation. It's slowing it's slowing our quota pricing down. It's making us lose money because we're not going as fast through the process. So you can stratify the data and see where different groups of employees are struggling or not. And then you can, again, back to the marketing comment, you can meet them where they are. You can use the technology. You don't have to call them. You don't have to have 20-page PDF training documents that go out of date the day after you build them. No one can find them. You can actually, with the hit of one button, reach these people inside of Salesforce exactly where you're seeing them drop off or struggle with a workflow. And you can personalize that message, right? You can just send it to those 20 new account executives with a message that you can customize to say, hey, I know you're new. Welcome. Hope everything's going well. We know that this part of the workflow for our new team members is an issue. If this is helpful to you, right? And so that's not an email. That's not slowing down. You're literally helping someone in a personalized way via technology in the application they're using where they're exactly having trouble. So that's just one example of how you can bring these things together and not waste people's time and not be robotic. And so these tools are actually, these platforms are really helpful because you can give kind of a dashboard view of what's happening across the company, reduce costs, improve the personal experience, and have people execute better, which again is ultimately good for business. Workday is another example. We used it a ton with Workday. Employees, they can't stand Workday. It's very confusing. It's very, and it's also high stakes. If you input things incorrectly, benefits enrollment, this or that, it can really mess things up and cause a ton of rework, a ton of money loss, all these things. And so you can personalize that experience and guide people through these workflows in a way that, again, isn't canned or robotic. You can write it yourself. You can put in like funny pictures or Giphies or memes. You can match the culture of your organization. You can match the culture of a sub-organization or a team within your organization. And folks are expecting this now, right? Again, we do a lot of things digitally. Shouldn't replace reaching out and connecting with people face-to-face or one-on-one. But as far as like getting work done and within organizations, we have to blend these things together now in a way that I think is more personalized than the training or the whatnot of the past.
Yeah. And Christina, do you have any comments about that? Because you're also working with the business partners, right? And so like you're having a full vision about the company and also getting that insight from there.
Yes, I think it's a very interesting comment about the implementation of workflows in the Workday, because indeed, as an organization who is using Workday, it's so confusing sometimes. I think like in the end of the day, the technology should make sense. And if we do not understand why we're implementing this or other tool, it does make sense. We're also quite lucky because we, as the company, as a provider, also supplying some of the technologies which is actually improving employee experience in the travel and expense space, and also like looking from that angle how we can impact the lives of the people when they're, for example, booking a business trip or planning the offsite or organizing the in-person connections, and definitely helps a lot. And looking after those elements that are not specifically related to traditional people thinking, but actually contributes to the experience. And another thing that I think we would need to double down in the future is offering more well-being apps. And because we as an employers are already expected to contribute not only on day-to-day how the work is done, but also looking and checking in with people how they're feeling, like monitor their not only the performance, but promoting mental and physical health, and also looking after and fulfilling our care of duty in this element by providing them also digital experience.
Yeah, and that is also really important. Jamie, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, and I think our benefits space is, going in that direction as well. When we think about personalized experiences from a mental health standpoint, having tools and resources at their fingertips. There's even technology, that'll be able to help understand work patterns and analyzing work patterns to signal early signs of stress or burnout or overwhelmed, and be able to head off some of those things before they become a negative or a deterrent in that employee experience. So I think there's opportunities on the mental health and wellness support aspect of that we're starting to see come into play. Love some of these technologies that are encouraging, take a deep breath. You think about the Apple Watch, whereas as you've been sitting too long, you need to get up and walk. There's workplace technologies that are coming out that are also leaning into it's time for you to take a deep breath, right? Your facial movements, your eye movements, and some of those things are signaling high stressful situation. So it's okay to breathe, and maybe you should take a walk and take a break, and some of those things. So a lot of improvements, pretty impressive on that aspect. And then one other thing that I want to mention is technologies around we go back into that personalization. I don't want us to lose sight of that manager-employee relationship and how vital that is. So making sure that we've got tools in place that allow for those managers to be successful. Just like we need to personalize the experience for the employee, we need to make sure that managers have what they need to be successful in the moment as well. Was at a dinner last night with HR professionals, and they were talking about having pocket HRBs for managers in the moment. I had an employee that said this and I don't know how to respond, and giving some people guidance on those situations make for more empowered managers, make for hopefully more effective managers, and help to improve that employee experience as well, because that manager-employee relationship is critical.
Yep. But how do you think that, I mean, okay, it's like really great how we are just like, measuring and like even the face recognition, the breathing and everything. But how do you think are the companies now, the readiness or like, the domination of these technologies, how they are dealing with that? Because it's okay to measure and it's okay to use them for well-being. But do you think that the companies are there about like, taking action? Because yes, we are measuring and yes, we are just like, analyzing, but what about the action? How do you see that happening, taking action upon the results? Kelly?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I've seen a lot of trepidation around a lot of these technologies also, right? Like we hear it with AI. Is it good? Is it evil? Is it that? And with these technologies too, I've heard, is it Big Brother? Are you spying on me? Are you invading my privacy? Like I'm being watched as I go into Salesforce. I'm being watched through my camera with facial recognition. It can be a little daunting, and it can be too much. And to your point, mine, it's also hard to action all of this stuff. If you have 20 things so pick again back to having a point of view. What do we think the 1 to 3 things are that really will move the needle for us right now, or that we want to try out and experiment with right now? Let's pick a couple of those and actually go deep on that and do it right and close the loop and take action and have a view of whether it helped or not. It's like a engagement survey, right? If you're not going to do anything with it, don't ship it out and have people take it. And so I think it can be a little daunting with all these technologies, and prioritization is going to be the key to be able to action and really understand it. Otherwise, you're just kind of skimming the surface across a lot of things and not really doing anything of substance.
Yeah, I mean, that's really a good way to put it. And Jamie, I think you want to add something to that.
Yeah, and not to lose sight of the employee experience and implementation of all of these technologies. That's why it's really important, when Kelly says the business point of view and that vision and what you're trying to have as an employee experience, that you're clear as you action on these things, how you think those are going to impact. Continuously monitoring, and that's why we do multiple engagement surveys a year, because it's never a one and done. And sometimes the implementation of those technologies that has a lasting effect, and that could be good or bad. Implementing a bunch of technology as it comes out, because we've got all this new technology coming out, can also deter the employee experience rather than enhance the employee experience. And not thinking about it like, oh, okay, we have this thing is an issue. We're going to buy this technology to action on it as a result of that feedback or whatever, and then we implement it and we're done. It's probably not going to be the case, right? Technology is going to continue to evolve. Our workplaces are going to continue to evolve. And so really having that clear vision of, here's what we're hearing, here's what we want to see, and here's how we're going to action on it for the long term. But we're going to make sure that it's not everything all at once. We're not going to shove it out without that thoughtful approach of, this is how we think it's going to impact today. This is where we hope it's going to impact next year. And if it doesn't work, how do we switch that out without, disrupting the employee experience in a negative way?
Mm-hmm. And there's one comment in the audience, so I would like to ask Christina, because Gloria says, great point, Kelly, generationally, not everyone is on board with such invasive technology collection. And I would like to ask you about the generations. Like, how does that happen among the generations? I mean, can you just see the adoption of technology in a better way with the generation Z, let's say, or vice versa? Would they be more interested in having that human touch or even that support? How does it work among the generations?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question to look into from the generational standpoint. I think it's also, yes, there might be a correlation between the Gen Z and millennials being more digital native and growing up with technology and adopting it quicker and having a more digital mindset. However, I would say it's also more industry specific, because there are still industries who are very heavy on paper. There are industries who are very heavy on the relationships, and there are industries who are actually digital and more open-minded. And then, for example, if we're going to the very old school manufacturing traditional family company and then suddenly implementing Workday, Engagement Survey, and Slack, we would not see any adoption. So that's why when we're speaking about the tools, first one being on board, but also, okay, when we have a buy-in, how we adopt and what is the adoption rate, and actually measuring this adoption rate of the technology. For example, how we're using one of our partners in the company on the well-being technology is that on the quarterly basis, we ask them to share with us the adoption report, how many people actually use the tool, what is utilization, where we need to double down, in which teams we actually need to look into in order to see whether this tool makes sense. And in the time when the whole macroeconomic situation was not super favorable, the first thing that was cut probably was HR technology. And that's why we need to see what is actually the pillars of success that should stay and are actually those elements that are there as a core, and what elements are good too, and looking after this adoption elements.
Yeah, that's it's really important, and that is also affecting the buying decision afterwards as well, that adoption too. Okay, as we are coming towards the end of our conversation, I would like to talk a bit about your expectations and the trends about the future. I mean, do you see this going more towards a digital way, or do you see it less tools but more human touch? Where do you think this is going with the employee experience, Jamie?
I think, especially with the Gen AI, where we're at with Gen AI, I think it's just going to continue. I think the trajectory that we're on now is just going to continue to increase. I think we're going to go faster. We're going to see more and more tools, especially in the HR tech space, coming. And VCs are still backing HR tech and investing in HR technology pretty regularly right now. Whereas some of the other aspects of technology are not getting those investments. So I think we're just kind of getting started, and the wheels are just starting to spin. But it's going to be really important for us to be mindful and strategic in which technologies we choose for our organizations based off of where they're at, what they need, what they're trying to accomplish. Decision making on business software is a challenge, and every business is different. And so we really have to, as HR leaders, be involved in what is the strategy of the business, and then align the technology recommendations around how we help solve those business needs. More important than ever for us to be involved in the technology conversations, the policy, the governance aspect of AI in the workforce, and stay vigilant as we see some of these court cases come out.
Yeah. Christina?
Yeah, and like I absolutely agree with Jamie. So we're only getting started, and the opportunities for Gen AI, I think, are just not recognized yet. What I wish to see and like more forecast is actually utilizing this technology in the right way and also in ethical way, and also for the employers actually thinking, okay, it's not, as we previously discussed, not an observation or like a big brother tool looking at you all the time and monitoring all the activities, because this very quickly goes into this optimization mindset, because as the business you try to optimize everything in order to have an output of the revenues, so that we're not really start thinking that technology actually allows us even more to optimize and in a way not to look into these personal experiences. And also how we can invest more into training, because I think in this conversation we didn't touch upon the training, because yes, we implement the technology, we give guidelines how to use it, but actually how we follow up and train and keep people on board with the emerging technologies, and also maybe not only the ones that we implement, but actually sharing those insights, what is available and how they can think about the productivity, time management, also organizing their personal life in a way, actually managing the technologies and not having a to-do list on a piece of paper or only in their phone. But maybe there's a smarter way managing that.
Yeah, I really like that, how you were just like, driving that way. And I think that is going to be the way to go, like in the 10 years, maybe even, because everything is so much fast paced that we see the change even happening in the shorter term. Jamie.
Kelly, I think.
Oh, yes. This is great. Thank you for having us. I think on the I think overall we're pretty early in this journey. I think 5-7 years from now, this is just going to be the way of working. I don't think people really know exactly what that looks like, but we're starting. On the employer side, we're already seeing it, right? To your point, Christina, industries, manufacturing, retail, right? These non-traditional tech industries are like, oh my gosh, teach me. It's coming. The tidal wave is coming. I need to be ready, because they still a lot of companies are working pen and paper and kind of older ways of working, and they're trying to learn very quickly. On the employee side, the expectation of the experience being, personalized, targeted, customized, easy, right? These are things that are starting to become table stakes. And I know the market's not great right now for a lot of industries, but it will come back. And ultimately, employees will have choice. And they're not going to choose to work in a company that has 300 apps and they can't get their stuff done. It's a nightmare. They'll go with a company that's easy, slick, has the tools they need, has the guidance just in time. This whole way of training is changing. And I think that employees are now going to expect the experience that we all have when we use products that we buy outside of work. And so I think those two things are converging very quickly.
Yeah. And as a last question, I would like to ask you, if from our audience, someone is really new, they don't know how to start and how to just create that balance, what would be one advice that you would give to them, how to balance that high touch with a human touch? Jamie, you want to go?
Yeah, if it's administrative in nature, then it's probably worth exploring automation. If it's something that requires or it needs to be leaned into a different leadership style, or there's a nuance to the conversation, or the personalities of people can come into play. Right now, I'd say leave those as your human touch. If it's
not,
yeah, if it can be, if it's administrative in nature and it can be automated, then lean into technology.
Okay, so it's not one size fits all. Just look at your current situation, get an X-ray, and depending on that, just choose how to move forward. Christina?
Yeah, I have this point of view where if it's an information based, it's inquiries of the information, or it's basically access to the information or access to the data. It can be definitely automized and it doesn't require that much human interactions. However, is anything which is related to the relationships or assessments, that should be still, in my point of view, having a personal touch. And we know that there is a huge race of AI talent technologies assessing the CVs, but also assessing and pre-assessing them. However, I think like in this space when it's more sensitive and more nuanced, we still need to double down on impactful personal connections rather than giving it on the automation side.
Mm-hmm. Great. And Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I would leave the group with is, when in doubt, just understand the landscape, try to get data, leverage a platform or tool that can give you insight into how folks are working, if they are, what they're using. I think if we collect data and look at it as a story, it's usually really clear kind of where you want to dig in, personalize, connect with humans a bit more in certain areas. So I think that can give you direction pretty quickly.
Okay. So thank you, ladies. It was really insightful. And today it was really great to see both sides and how to just, balance that. And thank you to our audience who listened, who contributed. And this recording, if you're watching later, is going to stay on LinkedIn. So you feel free to keep interacting and connecting with our panelists. And so until the next one, see you and enjoy your day. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.